Here's a question for you. If you suddenly found out about climate change and wanted to do something about it, not just be seen to do something about it, or be able to feel good about being seen to do something about it, but actually do something about it, would you follow the same strategies that we currently have? Now, I've been looking into this, and I think the answer is no. If there is a war on climate change, and there probably is, then we'd be fighting it with the wrong weapons and in the wrong places. What do I mean? Listen on. So first of all, we have a lopsided accountancy approach to measuring our emissions, which is incentivizing us to make some really, really dumb decisions. So, simple example. In the UK, a couple of years ago, there was a planning application for a coal mine. Well, that's bad. That's going to increase emissions. Well, the coal mine was going to be built purely to serve a plant here in the UK that needed coal in order to function. I was currently buying it from overseas. Because it would have increased our emissions as they are accounted for, it was denied. So instead, we continue to buy coal from Asia and then ship it all the way from there to here, and the net result is higher emissions. But hey, at least our numbers look good. Similarly, we close down energy-intensive industries in order to show that we are reducing our emissions, but the consumption of the things they produce still carries on, and we import them from overseas, and the emissions are higher. Not just because we're having to transport them a long way, but because if they were made in China, where 75% of manufacturing is done, the chances are that the amount of carbon emitted per kilowatt hour is higher, and therefore we make things worse. So this accounting is causing us to make bad decisions. What we should be doing is looking at the relative carbon cost. So if there's something that's made overseas that has a high carbon footprint when you include the transport, and we can produce it here at a lower carbon footprint, even if it is done with fossil fuels, we should do that. The net result will be a reduce in carbon emissions, but that would increase our carbon footprint as measured, and so we don't. So the way we measure things is causing us to make things worse. So why do we do these things? Well, one, as I say, it's poor accounting, wrong methodology. Secondly, it's politics. We get to say we're doing well even when we're not, because either people are too ignorant, too dumb, or too dishonest to admit it. The other issue we find is that, and this is something that people have to recognise, is that there are simply not enough resources in the world. In order to truly transition to net zero worldwide, which is the only thing that really matters, it doesn't matter if one country does it, if nobody else does, because the planet doesn't care. You don't get excluded from the effects of climate change just because you do it. We don't have the resources to be able to transition completely. Ideally, you'd click your fingers and be able to put a solar farm or a wind farm wherever it was needed to produce clean energy, but the world is not like that. We simply don't have enough raw materials, we don't have the production capacity, we don't have the transmission lines, so we can't put everything everywhere all at once. And that means you have to choose where you place things efficiently to get the maximum benefit in terms of reduction in CO2. Which means that putting a solar farm in the UK, anywhere in the UK, is really, really dumb if what you care about is reducing emissions. For instance, the energy output from a solar farm in Morocco is 3 times the energy output of a solar farm in, say, Yorkshire. So if you want to put a solar farm somewhere, don't put it in the UK. Put it somewhere where the sun shines all the time, where it will displace the most energy. Because we care about what our accounting numbers look like, not the overall emissions in the world. We carry on using up limited silicon, limited resources, making it more expensive and more difficult for places like Morocco to use solar, where it will do far more good. The other thing that is a problem, particularly for this country, is nuclear. Nuclear is proven to be the only technology that can provide you with consistent, safe, reliable baseload, which renewables cannot. Yet we really haven't done very much at all in the last 30 years. If you look at France, where 70% of their energy is met through nuclear, their carbon emissions are much lower, their cost of energy is much lower because they built an industry around it, whereas we have ignored it. And when we do something, we look at it as a bespoke one-off project, which makes it hideously expensive and late. Hinkley C, which is currently being built, which was forecast to be 18 billion when it was first approved, and is now forecast to be 35 billion and late. It'll probably be even later and more expensive when finally finished. Whereas Korea has standardized their designs and they produce 5 comparable reactors in the same time for the same cost in total. And is that because the Koreans are producing dodgy, unsafe reactors? No, they're leading, cutting edge. In fact, Finland's ordered 5 of them. So why aren't we doing the same? Underlying all this is a simple truth that we simply do not have the resources in the world to hit net zero. Let's assume for a second that we can get everybody on board to agree that it's an emergency. They apply the resources they have, they coordinate better. There is simply not enough manufacturing capacity, not enough material processing capacity. There's not enough raw materials, even including reserves in the ground, to meet net zero. And that means that you have to do whatever you're going to do efficiently to make the most of each of those resources as you expend them. And at the moment, the people leading the charge are NGOs and governments, organisations which are really, really bad at spending money efficiently, no matter what the arena. For one thing, they tend to be populated by politicians, and administrators rather than business people, scientists or engineers. So they don't know how to make the right decisions. And of course, they are driven by politics. And a lot of what I've told you about, most of them I already know, and yet they still get it wrong because they've got an eye on the election. They're more interested in looking good than doing good. So, agree, disagree, let me know. And for the next video, we can start looking at what a good solution should be like. Ta-ra!